Hello folks, thank you for joining me for another design diary. This is The Lone Adventurer, and I'm not playing through a game today, I'm just showing off my own game that I've made myself. If you want to see the other design diaries that lead up to this one, I'll pop a link up in the corner of the screen to the first part right about now, and links to part 1 and 2 will be in the description below. So this is it folks, it is finally done. Took me long enough. And I am very pleased with how it has come out, the final look of the game. I'll bring it up to the screen in a second and give you close-ups of the map and the shop area, which I'm particularly pleased with. And really the reason why I'm doing this video, this third part, is because the game is now available and there will be a link in the description below to where you can get yourself a copy of the game. Initially that'll be a drive-through RPG link, and hopefully eventually there will also be a itch link as well, so you can buy it on itch.io if you prefer getting your games on that particular site. So there have been some changes beyond the aesthetic that I will run through for people who are keeping up with the evolution of this game. But I guess the first thing is the sheet, really. I've redone the visual elements, I redrew the map, I redrew the shop, I redid all the borders and dropped those in so that it looks a little bit nicer. So here is the shop area. I've rearranged the elements a little bit, but everything's exactly the same. It's the same number of trade goods shelves, it's the same number of regular shelves, and it's the same number of extra storage shelves over here. And then the area where you link your coins was over here, but I moved it over here just to get everything working visually nicely. Now the extra storage area I like as a concept, but if I'm honest, I don't think I've used it yet. I don't think the playtesters who communicated with me said that they used it. One certainly said that they definitely didn't use it, but I've left it in for the time being. This is one of those things with game design. You've got an idea and you've integrated it into the game. Is it good? Possibly I should have been brutal and just removed the extra storage, but I haven't done it. I've left it there. So that's the shop area. And then over here we've got the map. There's a couple of adjustments to the map from the last video, beyond the fact that I've redrawn it and tried to make it look pretty. We've got some icons here. You get an additional role if you go into that location, but we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into how the mechanics of exploring the little world have evolved. So the sheet is pretty. It's the final version as it stands, obviously, because it's now available. And the rules, there have been a few adjustments to the rules, and I've had to squish everything up a little bit in order to keep it on 2 sheets. There have been a couple of moments where I've questioned the need to keep it on 2 sheets. Is it worth doing that? I don't really know, but that's what I've achieved so far. So the rule changes that I have done are not particularly significant. There's a couple of key changes that I've made. And in fact, the key changes that I've made in terms of the day tracker and how you navigate around the map are both down to one particular guy who did some great playtesting for me. Super sorry, I've forgotten the name of the chap who did this playtesting. I'll pop the name of the fella whose ideas these were in the description below, or maybe I'll pop it up on the screen now. But let's get to those differences. So the first one is foraging and how you forage. This guy, whose name I really should have written down, had the same reaction to the map as me. He liked the fact that it was there, the visual element. He liked the fact that you ticked off the foraged locations, so it had a purpose, but he felt the map wasn't being used to the full advantage of creating the sense of going out into the world. So what he suggested is implementing a rule where you can only forage in locations that are next to the central town or next to a location that has already been foraged. So on your first forage, you'll only be able to forage these squares around here. But then if you foraged this river location here, in the subsequent go, you would be able to forage in this forest location, and the go after that, you'd be able to forage in those two locations there, in addition to the other locations that you hadn't yet foraged around the town. So it's very simple, but it gives the sense of going out into the world and makes it feel a little bit more like a place that you are moving through. It's a minimal complexity addition to the game, but I think it just tweaks it and makes it feel a little bit more like it's taking place in a real location. So that's that. And the other suggestion he made was around one of the other suggestions he made, because there's a whole bunch more that I'm keeping back for a future game, or just couldn't quite fit in even though they were really good, is the day tracker. Again, this was an opportunity just to add a little bit of complexity, a little bit more interest. So the day tracker has now been split down into 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn and winter. And seasons 2, 3 and 4 have a slight adjustment to the rules associated with them. So spring, there's no change. Summer, you get +1 roll when you're foraging in plains. So when you go into a plains location, you get an extra roll, and you will find an extra general good that you can put in your store. In the autumn, it's the same but with forests, and in the winter, it's a bit tougher. You cannot forage rivers. So you've kind of got to remember during the earlier seasons to do some river foraging, because when you get to winter, that's not going to happen. And if you find yourself needing some of those general goods which are found in the river location in winter and you haven't got them, then you're not going to find them, and that's that. So there you go. That's added a bit more interest, a little bit more complexity, but I've sort of kept it to a minimum. Some people who playtested gave me some really good ideas, some really great imaginative ideas that could add depth to the game, but I didn't want to add too much complexity, so I've kept those ideas on the back burner for a future game with a similar theme, but a lot more stuff going on. I have made a few changes to make the game a bit more challenging. First of all, I have increased the costs of all of the upgrades, including in particular the assistant, because I noticed, and several other people noticed, that getting the assistant early on is vital. And you could get the assistant right in Go 1 if you wanted to, which basically meant that really you were crazy if you didn't get the assistant in Go 1. But I want you to have to work for that assistant a little bit. So to have 2, 3, 4 rounds without the assistant. So firstly, everything is more expensive, but the assistant is within that more expensive. And I have reduced the number of coins that you start with by 1. So you start with 5 coins. Everything costs more. So hopefully that's added, just made the difficulty level a little bit more weighted towards it being difficult, so that 1, it counteracts you getting some additional dice rolls over here, which I forgot to talk about. We'll come back to that. But also it just makes it harder to get those higher scores. Talking of the scores, I have adjusted these, I think, so that each of the levels is harder to get to. You have to get 15 to be as good as Smart Goblin Mart, you have to get 25 to be as good as the Eager Otter Boutique, and you have to get 35 to be as good as Mirabelle's Superior Supplies, the highest level. I haven't done a huge amount of playtesting since I made those changes, but what I have learnt from the sending this out to playtesters is other people are going to be better at this game than me. So hopefully that means that you're going to have to try quite hard to get to the second level. You're going to have to do pretty damn well to get more than 25 points, and hopefully getting more than 35 points is something that would be quite rare and an achievement. Might be wrong. I might have to make more adjustments in the future. We will see. So back on the map very quickly, these locations here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here and 2 here, when you forage those locations you get an additional dice roll. So that is an incentive to push out and to forage further away from the town. I think those are the main changes. Anything else is quite small. The changes are quite small. Wording adjustments, spelling adjustments. Yeah, the other thing, I talked briefly about the extra storage maybe being sort of possibly a little redundant. I might be right about that, I might be wrong. The other thing that people pointed out to me was that maybe the haggle points and the eagle eye points, you can spend them to do stuff, but ultimately that might never actually have a significant effect on your end of game score. So are they worth it? I like the idea of having some points to mitigate and to adjust things. I think that's something that's good in these sort of solo games. You remember that you can tweak the rolls or you can tweak your actions by having a slightly negative effect on your final score. I think that's a cool thing to do. So I want to keep them in there. So I've tried to make them perhaps slightly more relevant by reducing the negative effect they have at the end of the game. So previously, each eagle eye point or each haggle point would mean you lose 1 point at the end of the game. I've changed it so that for each 2 of these points you lose 1 point at the end of the game. So if you spent 8 haggle points and eagle eye points in total, you would lose 4 commerce points at the end of the game, whereas previously you would have lost 8. So hopefully that change means they become a little bit more desirable as a game mechanic to use. That's it really. I've got the out and about events. I've only used those once in a game, and I think they added a little bit of interest, but those have not changed since the last video. And that's Village Emporium, folks. I think this is going to be the last video on it, unless I do an actual playthrough on the channel. Let me know if you would like to see that. But there's a link in the description below if you want to grab yourself a copy. Thanks very much if you've watched all the way through to the end of this video. Did you enjoy it? If I make another game, would you like to see another design diary? The next game, I'm almost certain, will be a little bit more involved and in-depth compared to this game. So goodness knows how long that's going to take me to make, because this game took me a long time to make and it's a moderately simple game. Thanks for watching though, folks. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.